Hi, Bill Reinecke here today with your healthy aging tips. And what I want to talk about today is just want to talk about aging and our diet and exercise and how they go together. And the amazing thing is that they always go together. I can remember in grade school and being in PE or physical education class and and having the coach having us run around the field and and the healthy lunches that they tried to serve us in school. I am not too sure that those were so healthy, and not really too sure anymore, but nonetheless, the focus was on exercise and diet. And and as we get older, and things have changed, and there's more of a focus on diet, and there's different fads. And I'm not saying that fads are necessarily bad or necessarily good or better than the other, but people jump on a bandwagon, so to speak. And so the thing about it is that while we're going through life, the importance of diet and exercise doesn't change in our lives. The importance stays the same. And what may change is the different choices that we make as we go through life, and we look at the different things that we eat, or we develop taste for certain things as we get older. And so diets can change, and they can change if you move to a different geographical location in the world, and and it's just so many different factors. But the remaining point that doesn't change is that we're all aging. With every day that we get to age one more day, and there's nothing we can do to actually reverse the hands of time. And the second thing is that diet is just as important today as it was when we were born and we were infants. And the third thing is, and this isn't any particular order in importance, but the third thing is exercise. And as we get jobs, and we maybe find ourselves sitting at desks for prolonged periods of time, and and then maybe longer commutes to work and stuff, we become more sedentary. And so our diets may resort to maybe more fast foods, more carbs, things that are easy. And so with that, and the reduction in exercise, and just all of these factors, so really play a big role in how we age and the quality of life. And so I've done a lot of reading, and it always comes back to those two things. It comes back to diet and exercise. And so what I really want to focus on is that when we talk about diet and exercise, I think diet's just a bad four-letter word, because when we think of diet, and I've been on a lot of them through my life. I was born heavy, and so I've been thin, I've been heavy, probably at the heaviest point in my life right now. But I've taken weight off. I've gained weight. I've been on diets since I was in grade school, on and off, and so I know about diets. And when I hear the word diet, I think of being deprived. I think of being hungry. I think of going without. I think of a huge discomfort. I think of all of those things that go with that word diet. And to me, it's a bad word. So when I talk about diet here, I'm not talking about diet being a bad word. I want to really kind of reframe it in our minds and make diet a good thing. And diet becomes a good word in our life. We think about it differently. We see it differently. We don't see it as the glass being half full or our plate being half filled, but we really look at it as something that we can enjoy, a diet that works for us. A lot of the diets that I've, quote unquote, diets that I've been on are not sustainable, because when I come off of them, I put weight back on, and they're not the kind of things that I can live with all my life. So the focus here, on this channel and in my blog, is that the kind of things that we can really make changes to that works for us. Exercise is the other thing. I love to exercise. I like to hike. I like to mountain bike ride. I like to go to the gym and get on a treadmill, and sometimes I like to get into weights, but it's not my thing to bodybuild. I want to be fit and toned, but I don't, I'm not going to go to the gym with the goal of getting six-pack abs. I'm not going to go to the gym with becoming really cut. There is nothing wrong with that. I've got friends that's their goal, and it works for them, and they love being in the gym. But the truth is that's not for all of us. So the here's the point I'm trying to get at here, is that we've got to find what works for us. You know, what works for me may not work for you. And for the majority of people in our society, the majority of people that, you know, work long days and have sedentary jobs and or maybe on their feet a lot, or we find ourselves with not a lot of healthy choices in food, we find ourselves in a situation where, you know, that, you know, healthy or strenuous diets and exercise and gym workouts and things like that aren't for us. So this is really what this is geared about, is the diet and exercise that really is sustainable in our life, that will actually help us to have a better quality of life. And that's the goal. And so that's why, you know, I've decided, I sat down one day, I was actually standing and I looked in the mirror and I thought, that has got to change. I looked at myself and I knew that unless I took some kind of a behavior change, and what I mean by behaviors, I had to do things different. I had to think differently. I had to respond differently. I had to change, I'm changing my relationship with food. And so unless something changes drastically, that is sustainable and something that I can live with and that I consider comfortable, I was going to be in trouble. So that's what the focus on is here. Interesting things is that 1 out of 8 people in our country, on one research resource I found, is 65 years old. And it may be a little bit higher, as that was several years old, that data that I got there. But I found that really interesting, that you know, 1 out of 8 people are 65, and you know, that means there's a lot of people coming up behind them. And the average person today, because of our society and people living longer to a number of factors, and not necessarily with a good quality of life, but they can expect to live on an average of 18 to 22 years longer. And so, you know, I figure, well, if I'm not 65 yet, but if I was to live to be 20 years older than 65, that would make me 85. So really, if I need to plan today, if the good Lord gives me those days, I need to plan today on the quality of life that I can expect to live. What's interesting though is there is, and I guess I would be an example of that, what's interesting is that aging people are looking for information on ways to improve their health and their diets and their quality of life. And so they're actually actively seeking information to make these changes in their life. If you're watching this video, maybe you're one of those people, leading to behavior changes. We've got to change our behavior. We've got to change our relationship with food. And so what that really comes down to is self-care. Self-care is something that maybe is not something you talk about a lot or even think about. But as a social worker, we talk about self-care all the time. Social workers and therapists and people that are in the people helping field are some of the worst at taking care of themselves. But self-care is really something that we all need to think about doing, because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody will. I always say, and I had a supervisor that I worked for many years that I have a lot of respect for, and she always used to say, you know, self-care, if you don't, nobody will. So we can't expect that somebody's going to come along and take care of us. It's up to us to make those changes. And a lot of them have to do with behavior changes, which means we have to think differently and go back to some of the basics. Some of those basics are, and you probably guessed it, exercise and diet. Yeah, I've said it all through this video. If you're still sitting with me, you're going to probably hear those 2 words quite a few times, but it all comes back to those 2 words. We can't just throw them out of our vocabulary, because they really need to become a reality in our life. When I talk about a quality of life, what I'm talking about is a healthy life that has a full range of functional capacity. And what do I mean by functional capacity? It's those things that we take for granted today. I'll tell you a quick story. I fell on an ice cube, or slipped on an ice cube, about 2 months ago in my kitchen. My wife asked the kids to pick up an ice cube that was in front of the refrigerator, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but there was a little puddle. And I hit that puddle, and all I remember is seeing my left foot go up and my right foot skating on this puddle of water, and I fell on my right foot and broke my ankle in 2 places. And the next day, when I woke up and I saw that cast on my leg, I realized my life has just been limited a whole lot. I can no longer drive. I can't do a lot of things for myself. Bathing and the things that I enjoy and take for granted have just been curtailed, and I'm going to be heavily reliant on people. And so my full capacity of functional abilities was totally limited. And it made me appreciate what I'm talking about right now. And so the thing about it is that if we don't make these changes, if we're carrying around a few extra pounds and we're sedentary and we're not eating a good diet, then we are setting ourselves up to, by default, by the choice that we make, to limit our functional capacity, and our quality of life will be heavily diminished. So I don't say that to scare you, but it's truly a reality. As a social worker, I worked in the medical field, particularly in the hospice field, and working with people at the end of life. And I noticed a number of people in different stages and different cultures of their life, different ages. But one thing I noticed is that people that were at the end of life journey that were doing well were people that lived healthy lives, had exercise and diet was a big part of their life. So that really began to speak to me then. Aging generally is associated with an increase in body weight or body fat and a decrease in muscle mass. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that has to be the case. And the things that we do today and the things we'll talk about in the videos and in this in my blog are the things that we can do to actually make a difference in those things. Now, our bodies are going to continually change. We are in a constant state of human development, but again, based on the choices we make, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but we can make a difference. It's not too late to make changes. It's not too late to incorporate diet and exercise in your life. I don't care where you're at. If you can get up out of your chair and you can walk across the room, then you can exercise. If you can make choices about the foods you're eating and you're watching this video, then you can make good choices about your diet. So, do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Please subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions or you want to contact me, just click the link down below. And until next time, have a super day and make good choices for tomorrow.